while talking on the circular economy and MSMEs, I'm going to take the lens of an investor. Why should an investor, and how does an investor, who's the one who's putting capital, and in India today, that investor ecosystem has grown dramatically, and it's become one of the most important factors for starting and sustenance of an MSME. So I'm going to look at it from a investor lens as to what does it do, and in doing that, what I will do is I'll tell three things, and under each of those things, I'll say three things. Okay. So first, why are investors in circular economy? There was a recent statement actually earlier this month by the Honorable Minister of Environment, who said that by 2050, which is not very far, it's about 25 years from now, the size of economy generated by circular economy is expected to be $2 trillion. Now, putting it in perspective, India's GDP today is $3 trillion. So, a circular economy opportunity is 2/3 of Indian GDP today. That's big interest for investors. It can also generate, by the way, approximately 10 million jobs. And that's another interest for large investors. Second, faster growth. It's clearly shown, not audible? Second is faster growth. There's been study that shows by one of a very successful venture capital company in India. One of course, first is global. Globally, we have seen that companies which are compliant, and by the way, I'm really focusing not on the large mega companies, but on companies in medium and small industries, which are planet compliant, grew at 28% in the last 7 years versus 20% for the rest of the companies, which means there is a larger demand for companies which are into the thing. It's for they can do so. There can be a large opportunity in size. These companies tend to grow faster, and finally, they create a new market opportunities. Many of these companies will create new markets, new categories. For example, there's a company in India called Loham. What Loham does is that it takes away all the batteries that we discharge, takes the lithium ion component of it, recycles it, and creates new batteries. And that is making the entire battery economy sustainable both ecologically and economically, because the cost of operations is much lower. So that's the first reason as to why investors are interested in circular economy. The second question is how do investors integrate circular economy into their process? Because remember, investors are mostly interested in returns, and they are interested in financial returns because that's their job. So when you bring in an added element of circular economy, how do the people integrate? And this is I thought this will be useful. The first thing they look at is when there is a company, and this is important, I think, for companies who are in the MSME sector. The key thing is that what is the addressable market that this company offers, and how much of that is really circulable. The point that Mr. Rajiv made, and even Vidya alluded to, while all companies will be forced to go into circular economy at some point in time or the other, how much of it is core to the business is something that one has to look at. And the more core it is, it's higher is the investor interest. Otherwise, investors will not pay for that extra cost. Second is business model viability. And remember, people can become extremely, create good business model from this. Another example in this is a company called Fool. Fool started as a company which collected flowers from temples which were discarded. They would go, there's a company based out of Kanpur, and they would all be put into Ganga. It started all the way from Varanasi, all the temples around the Ganga. They collected these flowers. Today they make, agarbattis, cones, oils, etc. out of them. And they have so far led to more than 22,000 tons of being flown into Ganga. They've sort of saved it and they've recycled it. This is a business model which is arising inherently from that. Now, something like that is both a great business model and a great circular economy. So how much of our own businesses are becoming more and more relevant to circular is something that one might want to think about. Finally, investors, when they look at opportunities from a CE point of view, they will want how does it lead to sustainable value creation. And there's an element here which I think people often miss. If you create a company which is sustainable and which is far more integrated in a circular economy, the chances that you will get a better valuation for it, both in the public market or which is the stock market, or by a private investor through an M&A, is much higher. Therefore, by being integrated with circular economy is a good thing from that point of view. So investors use that lens. The third part of what I wanted to talk about, what can companies, MSMEs do to make themselves attractive to investors from a CE point of view? First and foremost, and this is something that I think CMAs need to really go way above than what we are good at, is to learn to tell the story. I think as CMAs, we are not very good storytellers. We are very good with numbers, but we are not good storytellers. I think it's time we started learning to tell the story. And tell the story as to how what we do is creating value, like I said, not only economically, but also ecologically, environmentally, and socially. So that's one thing. So showcase, and telling the stories by showcasing good thing. One of the best companies that's done it, and it's listed, it's an MSME that's listed, is a company called Antony Waste Handling Cell Limited. And that company is a leader in waste management. They have grown the last 5 years by about 26%, the profits by 26% CAGR. And they've been able to tell the story as to how, by making the whole ecosystem, they handle waste management for all companies, how by doing that, they're also able to create value. They told the story so well that their market cap has been successfully going up in spite of whatever ups and downs have been in the market. Second, it's very important to integrate and I think Vidya also referred to that in some ways, integrate the CE metrics into the core metrics of the operating business. You cannot have two sets of metrics. One, this is all my business performance, and this is all CE. They have to be integrated, and that's something that's a big role that CMAs can play in saying what are the metrics and how do they play into the core operations of the company. Finally, and the CMAs and the MSMEs must choose. We all talk of choosing investments. I think it's equally important that we choose investors. Look for investors. Look for people who provide resources, who are aligned to your vision of a circular economy. Luckily, there are many today that are there than they were even 5 years ago. And choosing them and working with them enhances your chance of making your own organization more attractive to to an investor while pursuing the goals of circular economy. I'll stop here and we'll take more in the Q&A.